Hey, Ahmed, did you
Hey,
sell
how
our
you doing?
deal yet, or what's going on?
What is it?
Did you sell our deal yet, or what's going on
The one in Georgia?
in Fayetteville?
Oh, still working on it.
That means no?
No, like, Dom is suggesting that they buy it as their primary. They
Uh-huh.
wouldn't. Okay,
Okay.
so I don't know. Like, I was supposed to have a meeting with someone today. They would buy, they would buy in Georgia, but she's busy with some other stuff. So hopefully by the evening, I can talk to her.
So your strong buyers are not as strong as you told us.
Not in Georgia, man. Not in Georgia.
Mm.
I never done a deal in Georgia.
Mm.
Yeah, so
Okay. Okay. It's
that
okay.
could be something we can work on in the future.
Yes.
Yeah,
You don't think you can do deals? Have you done deals remotely in other states?
yeah, yeah. I
Where?
have. I've done in Ohio. I tried something in Michigan that ended up not working out. Colorado and Alabama.
Hmm. You closed
Yeah,
in all those states?
yeah,
Nice. Were they wholesale deals? Just
yeah, yeah.
cash?
No, yeah, wholesale deals.
And how
Those
were
were
you
wholesale
finding your
deals.
buyers?
Uh, One of them is like a friend of my friend. That was a big deal in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and like he introduced me to some other wholesalers and some other people. Okay, so I would say I have like two, three vetted buyers in Colorado. Alabama, it was like through Facebook. Michigan also through Facebook. It didn't go through because the seller, we went out of contract. So I tried to ask for an extension.
Mm.
And he was like, no, I gotta increase the prices.
Wow.
Yeah, he increased the prices. So I was like,
Wow.
no, that's not gonna work.
Wow.
And where else? Yeah, like remotely, mostly through Facebook.
So what do? You just find investment groups in that market and post it there,
Yeah,
or do you put it on
yeah.
marketplace?
No, both marketplace and investment groups.
I gotcha. I gotcha. And you just basically send people over there to look at the
Yeah,
house.
yeah.
Negotiate.
I usually get the pictures from the sellers. Okay, I ask them to send me pictures and like a lot of information. And then I work on it. Like if the buyer wanna go there, they go there as a contractor or someone else. Or like
I
sometimes I
gotcha.
just tell the seller I'm gonna wholesale it. So
You disclose it up front?
for the one in Colorado and the one in Alabama, yeah, that was disclosed up
Mm.
front.
Mm. So why don't you at the same time get a permission to list it on the market if you're gonna tell them that you're selling it?
Uh, I don't know. I just never thought about it because I know that we need a power of attorney.
Yeah.
Okay, I was told like I tried to do that here in Jacksonville. And the seller called me and he was like, "This is illegal. My sister is a realtor, and she's saying that this is illegal. So it's either you delist it or I'm gonna have to take legal actions." So I asked my title agent, and he was like, "Yeah, you would need a power of attorney to be able to do
Oh,
so."
you listed without the power of attorney?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that
I
you
mean,
can't do that.
on my contract, it said that I'm allowed to list it on the MLS for marketing
Uh-huh.
it. Okay, but I just never get a power of attorney, like a limited power of attorney.
Right, right.
So I don't know, like some people do that without even having a limited power of
Technically,
attorney, but
you're licensed here, right?
no, I'm not a licensed
Or you
realtor.
listed it through like a brokerage?
Yeah, yeah, through the limited
Got
listing
it.
ones. Yeah.
Got it. So yeah, typically you need to have it's not power of attorney, it's called attorney in fact. If you have attorney in fact,
Uh-huh.
you can list the property on MLS. Um Now we are licensed ourselves, so sometimes if it's a deal in Northeast Florida, we would just list it without necessarily having it. I don't believe there's anything illegal if you've disclosed it in your agreement up front.
Mm.
And then
Oh,
you just
okay.
have to list it as an equitable title,
Interest. Okay.
not seller. So when you list it, you have to disclose that the property is, this is an assignment and, you're selling it as equitable owner of the property and
Okay.
not the seller.
Okay. Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, makes sense. But we don't
Yeah.
need a power of attorney or anything to do so.
If you're licensed and you're listing it yourself, we don't
No.
always get it
Okay.
personally. Um, so it's funny we said Fayetteville because the very first deal that we've done that was outside of Jacksonville was
Hmm.
actually in Fayetteville, but not in Georgia. It was in North Carolina.
Oh, North
So
Carolina. Yeah.
yeah, so we had a deal
Wow.
in Fayetteville in North Carolina,
Yeah.
and we didn't tell the seller that we were gonna sell it. We just told the seller that we were gonna buy it at first.
Hmm.
And then after we got the photos, after we looked at the place and all of that, it needed more repairs. So then we
Yeah.
went back to him and we said, listen, we can't necessarily buy it, but we're going to try to flip it to somebody else. So we converted it and he was okay with it. Um, and then the seller basically went and put a for sale by owner sign in the
Yeah.
yard and he put Lewis's phone number on the sign. And
Whose
then
phone?
people,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah.
Well,
And then people
that's a good
started
seller.
calling Lewis
Yeah.
to try to buy the house. And we funneled a lot of people that went to see the house.
Wow.
Um,
And you built a
yeah.
buyer's list then.
No, that was a one-time deal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
the
That's
biggest and
interesting.
the best buyers list is the MLS. So there's nothing better than the MLS, you
You
know.
mean with listing it on the MLS?
Yeah, just putting it on the
True.
market and
True.
listing it online because even if you have a buyers list and you just email them, you know, you
Yeah, I
only have
tried
so
doing that.
much reach.
True. Yeah, I tried doing that, and like personally, I don't think it's a powerful or it's as useful because like even I myself as a wholesaler, okay, like we do invest, okay, but I get a lot of emails from a lot of different wholesalers and like a bulk of emails every single day. Oh, I got this new property. Okay, I don't have time to check all of them, and even if I do, okay, like I'll just it's just gonna slip out of my mind. Okay, what's a good
Yeah.
property and what not? Because
Correct.
yes, it's not too
Yeah, so
effective.
MLS is basically the biggest buyers list out
Yeah.
there. A lot of people preach to sign up for what is it called? Investor Lift.
Hmm.
Does anybody here use Investor Lift or has access to Investor Lift? April, do you have Investor Lift? Do you use it?
So I don't have it, but I have someone that has it. And, every once in a while I will, if it's a place where I'm just like, I have no idea and I don't have time to find something, I'll go over there and use it. And we've always found a buyer.
Through Investor Lift?
If we use it,
Or
it's only been a few times.
mm, who is it? Is it Daniel Lee?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
His name's Jacob.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we've used Investor Lift a few times and we've never found success with it.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Every time we list, we just get hit by a bunch of wholesalers.
Here in
Yeah.
Jacksonville.
And yeah, almost anywhere.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't know. I found an awesome buyer actually, a sub two buyer on one of them. And she's been doing it for
Anyone.
like 20 years buying sub two. She was super cool. And she bought one of my deals off Investor Lift. And now, obviously now I just sell deals to her. So she's awesome.
Wow. Wow. So let me ask you, when you're marketing sub two deals on MLS or on Investor Lift, what price do you put as as the sales price? Do you put the entry fee or do you put the total purchase price?
I try to break it down
Okay.
as
So
here's the
what
entry
is shown?
fee, here's the purchase price.
But that's the description. What about the price itself, like the price of the listing?
Um, I've never listed it on the MLS.
Sub 2 deals?
No.
Okay. What about investor lift?
On investor lift, then I just put the total price, the entry fee plus the mortgage balance.
If the mortgage is like 200K and you're giving the seller 10K and then you have another 10K assignment, then you'd put 220 as the purchase price?
Yes.
Hmm. Have you tried to do it the other way where you advertise the entry fee?
Yeah, we advertise the entry fee.
No, but on investor lift as the purchase, because you know how they
Oh,
have.
as the purchase price. Oh, no, I don't use investor lift. So I don't know. Like if I'm going to send out my own sub two, right? Let's say that I send it out to my investors. I
Mm-hmm.
put the entry fee
Right,
and
right,
then I break it down. Like this is how much it's going to cost you $20,000 to buy this house, right?
right.
And then I break it down in like in the description.
Mm, okay, okay. So basically, you would put the total purchase price as the total purchase price, and then you'd break it down and you'd show what it consists of.
No, usually I put the entry fee, the mortgage balance, the PITI, the mortgage balance, like we list it all out in the description when we send it out.
Got it.
I don't actually put a total purchase price because you
Hmm.
don't really know what the total purchase price is going to be, right? Because I mean, it just depends. If it goes 30 days, you're adding, if they're not paying, you're adding to the balance. If they are paying, you're taking away from the balance.
Right, but do you just put the approximate?
Um, I'm trying to think what we did on this latest one. I don't always make the flyers. I think we did not put the approximate total. No, we just
Hmm.
put the breakdown.
So
Let people figure it out on their own.
we recently had a deal in Texas, and it was initially a sub 2 deal, and then we had to turn it into a short sale later on. Dom, you want to tell us what happened with that deal? How we were advertising it and how you changed it? The Hondo deal?
Um, so my bad, I was just reading some messages. So you're talking about Hondo, it changed how?
So you were advertising, how were you
How'd you
advertising the
advertise
purchase
it?
price?
Um, oh, that's the mobile home in San Antonio area, right? Outside San Antonio in Hondo, Texas. How do we advertise it? I mean, tons of different ways.
Purchase
So, and
price. We want to know purchase price. How'd you advertise purchase price?
like the amount? Oh, initially, oh, we just advertised the down payment.
Yeah.
All right, man. We can take over from here. You can go back to sleep.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very broad question because we did it 16 different ways. So, I mean, you're just throwing me into the fire,
What
bro.
Dom
Sam,
was
where
one
are
of
you? How
them.
about how about this, Sam? Where are you leading us right now? Because you're always leading us somewhere.
Well,
How
the
about you
we
tell us where you're leading us?
well, we did it a bunch of different ways, and one of the ways that we try to attract people because essentially it was a little bit overpriced, and it was just a little too overpriced to effectively get a homeowner buyer or a good sub two buyer, and it just right outside of the scope of making sense. And then we started to advertise it with only the down payment, right? Or only the entry fee, right? So instead of advertising it at 300K, we're advertising it at 29K, both in different forms and on the market. And it just, yeah, it was and that's where you're getting to, right, Sam? The fact that we did that and it really didn't work. So I'm not sure what direction you guys were headed into, but it really just bought a spectrum of just lower grade buyers that just want to buy extremely cheap hood stuff. And they weren't expecting like putting the entry fee and then having a $2,100 a month payment. And then the fact that it's 300 grand altogether when the value of it is probably 275 to 285. It was a good experience, a good learning experience, but it just had very little effect on potentially exiting it. And I think you're getting into the short sale deed exchange process. Is that right, Sam?
Yeah, so let me pull that property up and show you guys what I'm talking about. So essentially, can you mute Dom? So essentially, we have this property. We had it under contract as sub 2, and we tried to sell it. The guy had a mortgage of about 285. Actually, was it a little? It might have been even a little more than that. It might have been closer to 290. So he had a mortgage of 290. The property is worth close to 270, 275 retail, and it's a mobile home, right? Now it was a really nice mobile home. It was all tricked out and stuff. Let me see if I can find any previous pictures that we took of it. But essentially, people weren't like there were other listings of mobile homes in that area. Let me see if I can find any that were similar that are probably still listed. Uh, so this probably would be an example. Nope, that's land. Let me see. Where's the PR? Private road. Here we go.
Yeah, but we've got good photos in our Dropbox now.
Cool. So anyway, I won't pull it up, but essentially it was a mobile home. It was priced very high. It was the value was $275,000, and we didn't know how to advertise it because um we had it sub 2, but if you price the property for more than what it's worth, then it's very difficult for buyers to, even look at that property. And reason being is if they see the property price at, let's say, 310,000 and it's only worth 270, they most likely won't even go and pay attention to any other details on the property because they're going to assume that these guys are out of their mind. They're asking way too much, right? So if it's priced above market price, then in most scenarios, those buyers wouldn't even be interested to look at the deal to begin with. So what we started experimenting with is we decided, okay, well, what if we change the purchase price from 300,000 down to like 30 grand, which was our entry fee. So we put our purchase price very, very low, and you can actually see it. So we had it listed for 329. It was worth 275. Nobody was even coming to look at the property. We then dropped the price completely and we put $29,000 as the purchase price. We got a lot of phone calls as soon as we dropped it, right? Most people that were calling were saying, "Oh, you can't," because they would call and they're like, "Oh, what's going on with this house? Why is it $29,000?" Right? So it drew a lot of interest to the property. I don't know if any good prospects came out of it, but I do think that I remember a lot of low income people that were looking in this price range. They were hitting us up, and I think did Michelle come from that posting, Dom?
No, no. She came from some other method, and I brought Hondo to her attention, and I sent her there, and she did want it, but I don't know if she's a good candidate or if she counts at all.
Gotcha. Yeah, so anyway, this is what I was talking about, April. Basically, we dropped the price all the way to 29,000. We started getting a lot of phone calls. A lot of people were pissed off to see this number. So then we relisted it. We removed the listing and then we relisted it for sale again with 319 purchase price, and then we put everything in the description like you said. And then we weren't getting any attention again, so we decided, okay, well, what if we bring the value of the property closer to where it should be and then tell them that we're just going to charge them an assignment fee after they call and show interest, right? And then we dropped it to 287. And still even this didn't work. So that's why this property ended up, instead of going sub 2, because we not only had it sub 2, we also got an authorization to market so that we could put it on the market and sell it as a sub 2 deal. I don't know if you guys have ever thought of doing that, but even your sub 2 deals, the biggest buyer pool should be, MLS. Now, when we put it out, this one wasn't successful. It didn't work out. It was in a slightly rural area. It was about an hour and a half away from San Antonio. So probably one of the reasons. It was also a mobile home, right? So it didn't work probably for that reason too. Nobody wants to pay 287 for a mobile home. So, long story short, the reason I say this is because when you're marketing properties, you probably want to do everything possible to draw as much attention to that property as possible and put as many eyeballs as possible. And if people are searching, you got to think like, how are buyers searching? They're probably going on Zillow, or even, agents are going on MLS, and they're oh, okay. So they get a constant reminder of those deals. So they get email reminders and everything else, right? So most people would like have an area that they're targeting where they want to buy a house, and they have certain filters like amount of bed and bath. And you just have to price your property and put the right keywords accordingly, so that people that search to buy properties in that area will find you, right? So that's why we were experimenting with the price there, and we were trying to see, where do we need to price this to even get attention and get showings. Um, but yeah, that's just like a little nugget about how we put properties on the market. Um, I'm actually surprised, April, that you never put your sub twos on the market.
Um, I mean, I always just sell them to other investors or homestead buyers that I already know or connected with. I mean, I just, I guess I could. I don't know. I never really thought about it.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think
Did you have you found a buyer for a sub two deal on the market yet?
so? We've had a lot more success with putting properties not just on market for sale, but actually for rent, as a rent to own.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have put on the market for rent to own, but just not like a sub two.
Right, right. So, but it would be a sub two underlying deal that you
Yeah, it
locked
would.
up, that you were
Yeah.
trying to assign,
What did we do
or
with this one?
it was something that you closed
Um,
on.
we were looking for like a wrap buyer essentially, and put it on there as a seller finance.
Hmm.
And we
Did
did
you
find a
already own
buyer.
the property?
Um, we did not. No, we were under contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would say we almost all the sub twos we get, we just found most people who actually want those types of properties, if they're retail buyers, to be renters. So Dom puts them on marketplace, with specific, rent to own pictures and descriptions and stuff like that. And he also, I guess, Dom, you had a lot of success with Craigslist too, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say Craigslist.
Yeah, I mean, so Craigslist helps out a good amount. Zillow for rent helps out. One of the cool things that we've done, which attracts people, or at least it brings to light that people that are renting have the opportunity to buy, is if you just snap a picture, like I mean, you can go and search on Google or whatever, and you can get a rent to own picture and put it in your pictures. Um, and then as people are just looking through pictures, they just see rent to own as a picture, and it gives them the hope that they can possibly buy this thing. And you can see if you can work the deal out from there. But that works out really well. It works out well on Craigslist, Zillow for rent, and then just on the good old fashioned MLS. So I think that's one of the things that Lewis and Sam do a really good job, is getting a lot of the sellers to sign powers of attorney, because we just morphed into the talk off of letting the sellers know that we just have a lot of hedge fund connections that pay more money than we can pay. So our cash number is 320, but if you bring it through our hedge fund process, it takes a little bit longer, but we can get you your 360. And then we get backup offers. And our backup offers, as to where hedge funds won't buy it, the backup offers are pre-qualified retail offers. And then they morph that into them signing the power of attorney that allows us to list it on the MLS.
Yeah, and most agreements already
You're silent, Sam.
So most agreements already have, that you guys probably have, already have a marketing clause in there, right? So you have to explain that marketing clause in one way or another. And I typically bridge the gap of like attorney in fact as, hey, this is basically, the same clause as you have signed in the agreement or you've signed off on in the agreement that allows us to market the property. And it's just the authorization to market that property. And even when I send it out, the document is not called power of attorney, right? Because power of attorney sounds scary. And we don't even actually get a power of attorney because power of attorney has to be notarized. We get what's called an attorney in fact, which doesn't require a notary. So we just send them an attorney in fact paperwork. The document itself is basically called authorization to market. And it doesn't give you any powers outside of signing listing docs, signing offers, and stuff like that for that one property. So you just want to make it as, not scary as possible for the seller to have peace of mind and not think you're scamming them in some way. But yeah, basically, the reason I bring all this up in the beginning is because today we wanted to talk a lot about novations. Now, one thing that I want to promote a little bit for everybody who's in Jacksonville, I saw April is throwing a mastermind in December. So April, can you put the link in the comments so that people that want to join the mastermind, they can follow it and potentially come see you? And
You're
could you
so
tell us a little
sweet.
bit about what you're doing?
Yeah, so I am doing, you're so sweet. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate that. So I'm doing a full immersion seminar. One of my partners that I own properties with in Hawaii, they did one in Hawaii, and so I'm kind of going off of their model. And basically we just do a whole thing on like my flipping business and how I, run a high level flipping business and how I raise money for it and how I use my brand. And then we're going to, go to flips and build budgets and, do all that kind of thing for people who want to get into flipping. And then also how to raise money and hopefully to partner with me on flips. And then we're going to do another day of just strictly creative finance, like how to build a portfolio and creative finance, like what you're doing here. So I'm only accepting 10 people because it's the smaller, the better. And I think the more value that you'll get from it. But yeah, if you guys want to come, it's in December. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Perfect. Cool. Well, would you be able to put the link
Yes,
for
yes,
everybody in the chat? Okay,
yes.
awesome. Yeah, and April has done a lot in our market. I think last we spoke with her, she had $11 million raised for
Yeah.
different flips. And how many flips do you do on a monthly basis?
So we've really grown it. I'm trying right now. I'm kind of at one. I'm buying one a week. That's my goal is to buy one a week.
Wow.
Just adding more people to my private lender list, and like we're talking about now partnering with this contractor and getting a warehouse and starting to like build our contracting side as well to like bring down the cost of doing the
Cost.
renovation. So yeah, we're trying to scale it and take it to the next level.
Nice. We need to see a picture of you with a hammer and a chainsaw.
Yeah, right. No, I'm not that end of it.
Cool. Well, please do us a favor and put the link in
Okay.
so that everybody who wants,
Thank
they
you.
they have the opportunity to come participate.
Thank you. Doing it right now. Just got to go find it.
Okay. Are you good? Everybody can
Yeah.
hear me? All right. So today I wanted to talk a little more about novation. So last time we did a little questionnaire, and most people wanted to know more about novations and how novations are structured and how we do our novation process, right? So I've gone over this chart one time. I'm just gonna quickly cover this one more time and just give brief explanation so you guys see what I'm talking about here. But essentially, it's a comparison of assignments where you just make a cash offer and novations, right? Where you disclose almost everything up front to the seller and you just go through a retail transaction or more of a retail process where you just list the property. Now, a lot of people say that novation is basically having the ability to list the property on an MLS. It's actually wrong. Novation itself stands for replacement of contract. And what that means is when you assign your rights to the agreement, you assign the rights and the agreement still remains in place. So the original agreement you wrote with the seller, that's the agreement that you're passing on to the new buyer and adding an assignment fee for the fact that you're assigning your contractual rights over to the end buyer. With a novation agreement, it's different because you're not assigning the agreement. The seller releases you from the AB contract that you signed with them and enters a BC contract with the end buyer directly, right? So that's the difference between assigning and novating. In an assignment, you are not entering the seller is not entering a new contract. They are just remaining in the exact same contract and the buyer switches and you just bring another buyer in an novation. The seller and the original buyer basically cancel out the original agreement and then the seller enters into a new agreement, which we call a third party agreement with a third party buyer to complete the novation process where the contract gets replaced and they close directly with that third party purchaser, right? So that's just the technical legal difference. And the reason novation is powerful is because not just because you can list it on MLS, because we've done novations without listing properties on MLS. The powerful aspect of a novation is the fact that banks finance novation fees. So when you're assigning a deal, it's a cash deal, almost no lender out there would finance an assignment fee, and your buyer would have to come out of pocket to cover that, unless it's a hard money lender. But any conventional lenders that are doing FHA, conventional, VA, USDA, any types of loans that are going to go through Fannie and Freddie, they wouldn't finance assignment fees, but they will finance novation fees. I don't know exactly why. My assumption is that it's a more, upfront disclosed process and they just feel more comfortable doing those, right? But here are some key components that help me differentiate which deal is going to be a good novation and which deal is going to be a really good cash deal, right? So one is motivation of the seller. So assignment, typically we get really deep discounts, so they have to be super motivated to sell. So that's why the level of motivation has to be like 7 to 10. Novations is just people that, they have a reason to sell, but price is important to them and more important than, speed in some instances. So that's the first differentiator. Second is condition. So when you're doing cash deals, most of the time, the reason people would sell for cash is because the property just needs too much work and it doesn't qualify for any lending, right? So conventional lenders can't really finance on fixer-upper houses. So it's basically down to hard money and cash. And there's really, no reason to do novation because your cash buyer is going to be, not going to need financing. Now, with novations, typically it's light rehabs or just cleaning of the property to make it retail ready and presentable. And whenever you are doing novations, you always want to do those light touches on the properties, even if it's just a clean and it's going to cost you $200. You want to do those and finish them so that the property presents better because retail buyers are a lot more picky. Equity. So with cash deals, equity needs to be high, or that's what we typically see, that they have high equities. That means they have room to negotiate and take a lower fee, because essentially if the house is worth 200,000 and they owe more than $100,000 on it, there's really a little bit of room for them to negotiate. With novations, because you're offering a higher price, you can go after lower equity properties. And by the way, if you guys want, you can literally take this list of things and put it in like PropStream or something like that and try to get property. So for example, equity, right? You can filter for the amount of equity you have and target properties that have lower equity and do novations instead of doing cash deals, right? If you're going to cold call. MAO, so max allowable offer on cash deals, we typically offer 50% of ARV. So if the house is going to be worth $200,000 to $300,000, we would offer 100 to 150 grand. On novations, we typically offer 75 to 80% of as is value, not ARV, as is value. With novations, as is way more important than what ARV is. ARV practically doesn't matter. And then you have priority. So priorities for, assignments for the sellers is quick closing, convenience, and the fact that it's an as-is sale. With novations, it's also convenience, but it's more so price and peace of mind that the transaction is going to go through and they're going to get an X amount of money. And then types of sellers, with assignments, typically it's less educated, old school countryside people, people who have a messed up life, crackheads, low income people, people that inherited a house and don't know what to do with it, and it's a house in the hood. That's more so where we see assignments and cash deals. With novations, it's more educated people and they have their affairs in line, and it's mostly middle class people. And then price point, we typically see cash deals happening up to 250K, because that's the sweet spot for most buyers. With novations, you can go 150 up to $1 million or even higher, right? Typically, if it's over $1 million, they're just way too savvy. And most people over $1 million would just go and list with a real estate agent. Most people. Now, again, I might be wrong. That's just our experience. Now, the questions that you guys really wanted the answers to is how do you even do the novation process? So there are 5 required documents to complete a novation. Well, 4 and 1 is optional. So first, you just have to have a regular purchase and sale agreement, and your purchase and sale agreement has to have a novation clause in there. Meaning, you have a regular agreement with the seller, shows purchase price, shows time frame, shows closing date, and there is going to be one clause that's extra. So you can use your regular cash agreement, right? There's nothing wrong with it. But instead of the assignability clause, you're going to change it and you're going to put a novation clause in there. And what it's going to say is the buyer reserves something in the lines of the buyer reserves the right to novate this agreement with a replacement agreement to a third-party purchaser without seller's consent, and seller agrees to cooperate fully to transfer title directly to the third-party purchaser, right? So this is the simplest way of putting a novation clause in. So instead of buyer reserves the right to assign this agreement, you just say buyer reserves the right to novate this agreement with a replacement agreement. Remember, I was telling you how you're going to replace the original agreement with the BC, and the seller enters that contract directly with the end purchaser. That's the clause that's going to allow you to do that. Now, that's really it. There's really no other tricks to novation contracts. The second thing is you need to have attorney in fact and authorization to market. Almost any title company that does novations can help you draft this up and give you the paperwork that they would need. But it's basically an attorney in fact paperwork that states that you have the ability to sign offers on behalf of the seller, sign listing docs on behalf of the seller, and basically market the property on any form of media like MLS, any other websites. And it's practically the same exact clause that you usually have for marketing clauses in your cash agreements, right? Now, once you enter these 2 agreements with the seller, you're officially under contract. You don't want to sign anything else up front. So at first you sign those 2 agreements. Then after you locate your buyer, so you go list the property, you have showings, you have people that come in and they make you offers, you've listed the property and you've received the offers. Now you've chose the buyer that's going to transact and you chose the buyer that you want to do the deal with. You have to give a notification to the seller. Remember, we're disclosing almost everything up front to the sellers and we're talking to them we're talking to them up front about what we're going to do. So what we do is at that point, the seller signs what's called novation indemnification agreement. That is the agreement that takes you out of the AB contract and puts the seller in a BC contract with the end buyer and the third party purchaser. So it removes you and releases you from any kind of liability with the seller. That's why it's called indemnification. And it puts all the liability and responsibility on that third party purchaser because now the seller is under contract with them. The only thing that you need to do is get the deal to the closing and you get paid your novation fee, right? Now, before you can get to this point and before you can sign this, typically you want to have a seller's property disclosure. Again, this is a retail listing. You can collect this up front. We typically don't collect it up front, not to overwhelm the seller right away. We typically sign the attorney in fact and the novation agreement first, and then we go to sign the seller property disclosure after before we list and market the property. So before it goes on the MLS, we'll have our TC. They would call the seller and they would go through the questionnaire and get all the answers for this SPD. If the house is older than 1978, most cases you'll also need a lead-based paint disclosure. So you're treating it basically like a retail listing, right? So if you had a flip and you were selling your flip, same exact thing, right? So you have to have a SPD and you have to have a lead-based paint disclosure. So those 2 things get collected from the seller. Again, I don't like to overwhelm the sellers, and outside of these 2 agreements on the first time that they're signing, I don't ask for anything else, right? Because you don't want to sit there for 3 hours and they're getting tired of you asking questions and asking things. You want to usually give them a couple more days, they cool off, and then you call and collect information. And the more you call throughout this process, the better they feel. Because you know how with cash deals, when you have a cash deal, you almost don't want to talk to the seller until you have a closing date, and you don't even want to nudge them or say anything, like, hey, I need my contractor to go in or whatever the case is, because you feel weird, especially if you didn't disclose you're going to wholesale the deal. You're trying to keep most things discreet. Here, it's the complete opposite. The more times you touch the seller, the better it is because they feel like you're working and you're doing something and the transaction's moving along. So you basically tell them, hey, I need this seller's property disclosure. I need the lead-based paint. Here's an update. We're about to go live. We're about to get our hedge fund reps in there. We're about to get our retail backups in there. We're going to schedule showings here in the next couple of days. And then you just keep giving them updates so that they don't feel stranded and they don't feel like they signed a contract and now you've disappeared. So those are the requirements. One, two, two. All right. Lastly, can you guys see my screen, by the way? Or am I just talking, preaching to the choir? Yeah. All right. So lastly, here's how we underwrite novations. So this is basically the formula that I use. I do have a calculator. Let me see if I can pull it up. So I have a calculator that I created, but honestly, for me, by the time I open Excel and I put all these comps and all that stuff in there, it's just much easier for me to calculate it on my phone. So this is the formulas that I use. So this is a more precise. Check. We good? All right. So this is this should have said precise formula. It says advanced, but it's really not advanced. So this is my max allowable offer on a novation deal. I take the as is value and multiply it by 95.95. The reason I do that is because I want to discount the property 5% when I go to list it. This is going to give me my listing price as to what I'm going to list the property for. So I take away 5%. If it's a $200,000 house, then I'm going to shave 10 grand and I'm going to list it for 190 so that I can sell within 30 days or less. Second thing I take away is closing costs. So when we make novation offers, we tell people, hey, we're going to pay all the closing costs and take care of all the fees, right? So I take away about 2 to 2.5% for closing costs. Then I take away another 5% from that number for my agent fees because I'm going to have to list the property and I'm also going to pay a buyer's agent. So I have a listing agent and a buyer's agent. So I put 5% in there for me to be able to list the property, especially if it's in a different market. Now, sometimes this could be less, especially if you're using flat fee MLS. But if it's your first time doing the deal or it's a market you're not very familiar with, I would recommend to use local agents and just give them 2.5% and have them list the property for you. And it would help tremendously because, you know, they could help you with the right forms, the right disclosures, whatever else is needed, right? Especially if you underwrote for it to begin with, that shouldn't really interfere with anything. And then you have necessary minimal repairs. So necessary minimal repairs means cleaning, doing some minor paint touch-ups, minor landscaping like cutting the grass and, you know, tidying up the lawn and maybe putting some mulch up front. But that's it. You don't really want to spend more than 5 grand on a property that you don't own. If you don't have title to that property, don't go and do a full renovation on it because you never know what the seller might die for all you know. He could get hit by a bus. A piano could fall down on him. If that happens and you spent all that money and the heirs come in and say, we're not selling anymore, then you got to go through court and all that to recoup the investment, right? So that's why we keep the repairs minimal just to be able to list the property and make it retail shape. So that basically puts you, you know, in a good spot where buyers will be able to qualify for lending. That's really the benchmark, is you want the property to qualify for lending. Now, sometimes you're going to run into situations, and I'm sure April has been in situations like this, where you have a property and it needs a roof. And that's a major expense, right? It's 10 grand. What we would do in those situations is we would still tidy the property up. We would make it presentable. We would show the property. Once we find a buyer and we go through the process of the closing and it goes into the underwriting with the lender is then going to give you what's called clear to close. And usually it's a conditional clear to close, right? The first conditional approval. And one of the items that they will list is, hey, the appraiser went out, or like, you know, the insurance isn't able to be bound until you have a new roof on the property. Once you have that and you know that deal is clear to close, then you can put that expensive roof on where there's just a couple days right before closing, right? So that's how we would do those deals that do need something like a roof that basically has to be there. And then lastly, when you're underwriting it, you want to take away the novation fee that you want to make, right? With novations, we typically, if it's less than $25,000, it's really like something's wrong, right? We don't want to do deals that are less than $25,000 on novations. So here's an example. $200,000 house. Now, again, remember, this is the as-is value. So the house in current shape that it stands, it would sell for 200 grand. Shaving off 5%, taking out closing costs, taking out agent fees. Let's say I have 5 grand for repairs and I take away my novation fee and I have $145,000, right? That's what I'm going to offer to the seller as my max. I'm not going to start here. I'm probably going to give them 120 to 130, and then I'm going to negotiate my way up, right? So that's the harder way to calculate it. I don't think it's hard. I think this is really how it should be calculated. Simpler way is you just take your as is value and multiply it by 75%. And roughly in all scenarios, you'll almost always get the same number, right? If it's 145,000, 75% is so 150 grand of 200, that's roughly the same number, right? So if you need to just come up with a number quickly on your feet, just take the as is value. A lot of the times you can take this estimate if you don't have time to, calculate as is value and just shave off 25%. That's your novation max offer. So it's super easy to underwrite. Let's see if anybody has questions. Anthony saying, is there a sub 2 contract template anyone can share? Anthony, do me a favor, just put this question in the All Leads Suck group, and then we'll DM you a contract that we use for sub 2s. And let's see. Anybody else has questions? Roy, I think you are second time here, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Last time you came in, I think you also expressed interest in novations and listing properties. What do you think about the calculations and how to underwrite it? Do you think you can underwrite a deal in under 1 minute or a
Yes.
novation deal?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Have you done novations in the past?
I haven't, but I kind of partner up on them because I'm licensed, so I got to be careful with that.
Why does that matter?
You can't novate if you're licensed.
Why?
I don't know why. Something about listing with your, I don't know the exact wording. Your I'll get you the wording from my broker.
Well, who told you this? Was it an attorney that said
My
that?
broker.
Your broker.
Yes.
But is it like a brokerage policy, or is that because we're all licensed and we list novations?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. A lot of the times it could be a brokerage. Now you don't have to list it under your license. Because if you want to list the novation, see, like the reason or one of the reasons I underwrite a 5% agent fee here.
Right,
is
2.5
because
each side.
if we want to, we can just go to a listing agent and have somebody else list it.
Right.
That's like saying you can't buy houses because you're licensed.
No, so that's why I partner with people. So that's that's what I did on the other one I did. I just partnered with someone and had them.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, we're all licensed and we list, matter of fact, probably majority of our business is novations.
All right. I'll
Yeah,
check into that.
I'm not, because basically you're not doing anything illegal and you disclose to the seller that you're acting as a buyer in the transaction.
Who do you hang your license with, Roy?
Pursuit, Jeff Reber.
Person. Okay. One Realty with Gary Booth. I don't know if you've seen his posts and stuff. He's super investor friendly. He supports novations, wholesales. He'll put anything on the market.
All right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
but I
obviously there's the right fashion to do it in.
Right.
But it might be, like Sam said, more of a brokerage rule or something they're uncomfortable with, maybe because they're not familiar with it, rather than it being illegitimate or not legal.
Now, Roy, you're not in Northeast Florida though, are you?
Yeah, I'm in St. Johns County.
Oh, you're in St. John's? Okay. Yeah. Then I would do something like that. I would go with a more, unless you have a booming retail business. Yeah, unless you have a retail booming retail business where you just do retail transactions, I would say the best way is to hang your license with investor friendly brokerage.
All right.
Yeah. Or you can just JV with us and forget what we said and don't list novations on your own.
That's right.
Yeah. So we just finished. Next week we'll share it. The deal isn't closed yet. It's closing today. But Tony, it looks like he jumped out of the Zoom. Today we're closing on his biggest deal. He's never done a deal of this size. So it was a deal in Texas, and the total spread on the novation is $87,000. So, yep. So he's gonna get like close to 40 grand. After everything's said and done, all expenses are paid, he's gonna get close to $40,000 on one deal. It took 45 days to get it to the closing table. Yeah, it was a $500,000 house, and actually it was a $550,000 house. We got it under contract for $400,000, and we sold it for like $490. So we basically, the exact formula that I just showed you, the numbers basically were right there, right? It's also a deal where we had to lend money to the seller. And this was, I guess, it's the first time Antonia also lent money to the seller. So essentially, the seller needed 50 grand, and we lent him 50 grand. We split it 50-50. So he lent 25,000 and we lent 25,000. And the seller's paying us an extra $6,000 for the short-term loan. We gave him a 2 month short-term loan. And I guess they call it a gator loan, right, April? Yeah, so we gave him like a gator loan, and he's paying us back from the proceeds of the house. So it's a nice size deal. Now not all novation deals are fat like that, but this was a very easy, smooth, and good deal.
April, is that the right terminology for what a gator loan is? It's loans on odds and ends
I
or
think
unique.
so. Yeah,
Okay.
I feel like it means short term, high risk, high return sort of thing. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how high risk you guys were, but that guy needed that money right away, so he was willing to pay for it, right? And you weren't like out of control, with how much you were asking him for. So that's kind of what you try to stay within, like the legal limits, on a gator loan too, unless you can show like you could do like a JV. So you're not actually doing a loan, but yeah, it's very, I guess, creative, very open to
What are the legal
interpretation.
limits?
I think it's like 2% above, what is it? I think it's like 18% right now, but I don't know why.
And that's annual?
Yes. Otherwise, you could be considered loan sharking. I don't know if that's like federal or state. I mean, honestly, like, I don't know.
Breaking federal laws.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, because I think the loan we gave him, can you mute, Dom? Okay, I think the loan we gave him was like 12% simple interest. Um, Basically like 12% no matter what. So like it's a 2 month
Yeah,
loan, and he
flat
has to pay
fee.
us 12% flat 12%
Right.
over. But if you annualize it, that's like 80
Way more.
something percent.
Yeah, you guys are loan sharks over there.
Definitely usury for sure.
Yeah.
I actually told you should have charged him more.
Yeah, I
Sam
actually
was like,
think,
April, slow down.
yeah, now what we did was, because we wanted to make sure we're secure, we put a lien on his house that we had under contract, and he had a ton of equity, and we cross collateralized it with a farm that he owned, and there was no mortgage on the farm. So yeah, it was just like, but it was a done deal, right? So it was gonna happen no matter what. So we basically made it happen. Aldo, I have a question for you, man.
Hey, Sam.
Hey, so I try to follow up with the lady that I spoke with the last Zoom.
Yeah,
I think
Judy.
I called her twice or 3 times, and
Okay.
she didn't answer. I don't know if so. I try to call her from like different numbers. Let's try to call her again right now, live. If I can't get a hold of her, are you cool if I put her back in your court and you start following up with her?
Yeah, absolutely. Not a problem.
Cool. So let me see. So let's see if we can catch her. I think this is her. Yeah. On the Zoom, right?
Hello?
Hey, Judy.
Yes.
Hey, Judy, this is Sam. We spoke a couple times, I guess. I'm calling back to see if you made a decision on Rural Street.
No, I haven't. So what's happening?
Okay. So I'm the guy that, remember we spoke and I told you that we would move forward and do a short sale on the property. You remember me?
No.
So
I don't
essentially,
remember anything about a short sale. Is this a realtor?
no, I'm not a realtor. I'm a cash buyer. So when we
Then why
spoke,
would you do a real I don't get what you're talking about. Why would you do a short sale?
let me explain it to you one more time. So when we spoke, we were talking about two properties. One was the duplex. You said you weren't interested to do it with the duplex. You were going to probably keep it and finish it up. And then the one on rural, essentially we're going to give you money up front. You quit claim the property over to us, and then we go and do a short sale on our end. Remember?
Yeah, but then that's gonna affect my credit.
So that's a good point. So I want to make sure you distinguish between a short sale and a foreclosure, right? So when you go through a foreclosure on a property, it puts a permanent red mark on your credit. It shows as if you sold a property. I'm sorry, you didn't sell a property. You bought a property, and you didn't make payments, and the bank forcefully took it, sold it
Yeah.
on auction, and then that's how the debt got settled. So that's a foreclosure mark on your record. A short sale, you're correct. It still goes on your credit, much like late payments go on your credit. However, it's a little bit different. So if you had, for example, imagine you had a credit card and the balance on the credit card was $10,000 or $15,000. What you'd do is, if you can't make payments on that credit card, you'd call the bank and you'd negotiate with the bank to potentially settle the
Like the
debt
settlement.
for less.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
right.
it shows a settled debt on your credit versus a bad debt that was charged off by a credit card company. That make sense?
Yeah. So then what happens with you? Do you get the price of the selling the property, or what do you get out of the deal?
Good question. Because we also have to have some benefit to, for us to do
Well,
it.
right, obviously.
Of course. So the way we make money is when we purchase the deed from you, we have to hire attorneys, which, we have an attorney on retainer who does only this. Our attorneys go and negotiate the short sale with the bank. Whether they're successful and whether they get $1,000 off your debt or $10,000 off your debt or $15,000 off the debt that you owe, we only make money after we get that approval, and then we go and sell the property. We pay agent fees, commissions, closing costs, and whatever else needs to be paid to make the sale happen on the back end, right? So your benefit is that you don't have to deal with a short sale, and you don't have to bring money to the closing table to sell it to somebody else because your debt is higher than investors are offering you. So you just take cash up front and just quit claim the property over, and we have to handle the debt and handle the mortgage. And
So what do
your
you get? I still don't get what you get.
no, yeah, because we take the risk, and you're not going to share the
Right, but
downside
what
with
do
us.
you get? What do you get? I know what you're taking. What do you get?
Whatever we are able to negotiate with a bank. So let's say the debt on this is $180,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we negotiate with a bank and we get them down to, call it $145,000, right? So now we've created a little bit of spread. We then go list the property for, say, $180,000, and then we pay agent fees and commissions and closing costs, and then whatever the difference is
Oh,
between,
I see.
correct.
Okay. And how much do I get up front?
So last time we chatted, I told you that typically the max amount we're able to get is about $5,000
Oh,
that you get
yeah.
on the deed. Now I was trying to see if I could get you approved for the full $5,000 up front. I'm still working
No,
on it,
never
but
mind.
then
No, never mind. Never mind. I'm not even interested in that. Forget it. Thank you anyway.
so last time you told me that. Call her back.
You have reached Judy Carbajal. Please.
Let's call her again. How many of you would have called her back 3 times? Aldo, would you have called her back 3 times?
Oh,
Now let's call her from a different number.
You have reached Judy Carbajal. Please.
All right. Yeah. What's funny is that she actually, you guys can hear me, or she actually told me that she was super interested last time we talked. And she would rather do that than a foreclosure, and I actually have gone through explaining the whole process to them, right? So what I'll do is I'll just have to keep following up with her and try to see what could happen, because again, the likelihood of her resolving her problems and the likelihood of anybody getting this deal is super low, and the likelihood of her making more money and actually paying the bank off is even lower, right? So she's just going to keep digging herself into a bigger hole until one point she realizes, hey, I have no other options. This is what I have to do. So I just have to keep following up with her and keep calling her. Yeah, like as you can see, Aldo. Oh, actually, I'm not sharing my screen. So yeah, I had called her prior. What is it? Mute? Okay, I had called her prior as well, and she just wasn't answering. But in here I put notes, and she actually asked for 10K for a quitclaim deed, and her mortgage is 182, right? On that one property. So basically, she's already agreed to 10K. We just can't get her 10K for just the deed. You know, it's not worth it. But yeah, so that's basically what we have to do. We just have to follow up with her. I don't think she's a
and she has a
dead
pattern.
lead.
She has a pattern of doing this. You know, she like I almost had it. I pretty much had like a deal with her like on one duplex, to do a sub 2 on it. You know, and then she just like didn't do anything, got stubborn, and you know, then she lost it to foreclosure. You know, and so the same. I see the same pattern happening with this one as well. She's gonna lose that one to foreclosure if she doesn't do so.
Right. Yeah, we just have to catch her and you know, press her. And sometimes you just have to be a little firm with sellers and even say those things. Hey, listen, do you want the bank just taking this property, or do you want to get something out of this? I have to push them. But we'll see if we can get this done. Actually, Tony has brought a similar deal in Texas, and the guy is considering the offer right now. Should we call him back, Tony?
You can, yeah. I think that'd be a good idea. I talked to him yesterday, and yeah, it was a great conversation. Really, really friendly guy. He's, you
What
know,
was his name?
I think his name's Eric. I think the big thing with him is like he's like, well, it's 1,000, 2,000. I'm like, you're thinking about this wrong. Like you owe, I forget, was it 480 or whatever? We're basically giving you 482 or 488 or whatever it was, the extra $2,000. So yeah, so yeah, and then I started talking to him, and I know you know this, Sam, but started putting the realtor fees on top of everything. It starts getting into like the 500,000 range. So
Right.
anyway,
Right.
you want me to call him, or do you have the number? Or
Now
what do you want?
let me give him a call. I have him
Give him a call. Yeah.
here. Yep.
Hello.
Hey, Eric.
Hey.
Hey, this is Sam. I'm Antonio's partner. You and I had spoken 2 days ago about your property
Oh, okay. Yeah.
on Lace Park.
Yeah.
Okay. So me and Tony just chatted about 5-10 minutes ago. He
Okay.
said that you had a conversation with him. I just wanted to see what happened and why we haven't done business just yet on this.
Well, my realtor is working on a situation where she thinks we might be able to get it sold. So I told him I was thinking about it. I've been running it by a couple of people, and from what I've been told, it's like he's heard of the program that you guys are talking about as far as deeding it over. He said, but me deeding it over wouldn't be totally out of my name. You guys would probably be. And I said, no, they're doing a short sale on it. He's like, Eric. He said, that's my. He said, there's no other way to do it. The bank owns that deed until they work a deal out with them, but not with a deed in somebody else's name. He said, now you do what you want. I was like, wait a minute, bro. So you mean to tell me? He said, but it's an ongoing practice. People have started doing this quite a bit, but that's at your risk. I said, no, what I'm looking at is when they take it over, my name's on nothing. I'm done with the property. He's like, it don't work like that. It doesn't. So is that what that is?
So
See, 'cause
you're
I was
throwing a lot of
understanding that.
Eric, 1 second. You're throwing a lot of information out, and
Yeah.
some of it is right and some of it is wrong. That's why anytime you're getting like 2 or 3 sources giving you
Right.
information or knowledge, it always gets convoluted. At the end of the day, the opinions don't matter. The only thing that matters is laws, facts, and past performance, right?
Okay,
So this
let me
not
ask you this.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. The thing that you guys are wanting to do, is my name still going to be attached to that house?
No.
Because I don't want that.
So
I
let's.
want to be told.
I understand. So
Huh?
let's separate. Let me kind of separate the wrongs from the rights, because you again you
Okay.
threw a lot of information. So let me make sure I separate the wrongs from the rights. First of all,
Okay.
there are 2 documents that go with your property. One document, and they're completely separate, and they are a little interlinked, but they really have nothing to do with each other. One document is a mortgage, right? Which is basically the
Right.
loan that you took out to buy the property. The mortgage is held by the bank, and that is what the bank has as collateral, because the mortgage basically collateralizes your house and states that, in case something happens, we can basically foreclose and take this house, and the house serves as the collateral for this mortgage, right? So that's one document.
Right.
The other document is the deed. The bank doesn't own the deed, you own the deed. The bank has a first position lien on your house and on that deed in form of a mortgage, but they don't own the deed, you do, right? So the house, that's why when you say, is the house going to be in my name? The answer is no, because the house and the deed to the house is in your name. Once you transfer the deed over, the house is not in your name anymore. Okay?
I have nothing to do with that property, legally, forcing, nothing. Nothing comes back to me. If it doesn't get paid, if they don't want to work a deal, I'm still clear of everything. See, this is what I'm talking about. Because I don't want to be, for whatever reason.
Okay,
what
so
happens
Eric,
after
let
we
me
do this-
let me finish, because once you let me finish my train of thought, I think all your questions will be answered. So what I was saying is, first thing is, obviously there's a deed and there's a mortgage. Once the deed transfers, of course, you have nothing to do, legally speaking, you have nothing to do with that property anymore. So for example, one very blunt example is, you transferred the deed over, we now own the property and the deed is in our name. If somebody slips and falls at that house, they're not going to sue you, they're going to have to sue us. That make sense?
Okay, I hear you, yeah.
Okay, and the reason for that is because you're not the legal owner of that property anymore. You don't have control of that property. The deed is what gives you control of the property, right? So once you transferred control over the property, then if something happens at that property, whatever it is that happens is not your responsibility anymore. Now, when you tell me, well, am I going to be completely wiped out and I'm out of this? The answer is, that's impossible. You're the one who signed the mortgage docs. So the time when you'd be out of it is once we negotiate the short sale, it gets approved, and it moves forward and we sell the property. That's when you fully get wiped out, which takes about 90 days, 75 to 90 days on average, right? Because
That's
we
what
have
my
to.
relative told me.
Yep, we
Yeah,
have to
she told me.
initiate the process with the bank, go through it, make sure they, approve it. We have to. There's a couple of rounds that we have to go through with the bank, and when I say us, it's really our attorneys. And then once that's approved, then we sell the house for less, because the reason your house is not selling, I think we can all agree on this, is because it's just priced too high, and the market is not willing to pay that, and you can't even give your mortgage to somebody to continue making payments because your interest rate's higher than the market rate currently, right? If you had a 2% interest rate, I'd have said, you know what, Eric, there's nothing to talk about. Let me just take over your mortgage. But because you have a 6.75% interest rate, I can't take that over. I'd be better off getting a new mortgage or a new loan. So all that being said, your name gets wiped off of the property and we get control of the property. That's what gives us the power to go and negotiate the short sale in the first place. But then we have to put an investment into this, right? We can't just snap our fingers and all of a sudden the bank agrees and we're good to go and we can sell the house. There are attorney fees. We have to go through a certain amount of rounds and certain amount of formalities with the bank. We have to submit the right forms. All that is bureaucracy, and all that takes a little bit of time. That's why it's a 75 to 90-day process on average. Now, as far as the mortgage, once the sale goes through and once we close on the deal, your name is completely out of it and you have nothing else to do with the property.
So let me ask you this: while that 90 days or whatever is going on, if they wanted to, they could say we could foreclose on the house because no payments have been made within a certain amount of time.
Absolutely, of course. But you know why they wouldn't?
Why wouldn't they?
Okay. So when you go to take out a loan and you deal with a bank, do you think the bank is in the business of giving money out to people, or are they in the business of maintaining and keeping a portfolio of real estate?
Of course, they're out to, yeah, of course. They want a nice portfolio and make something out of it and not lose out big, of course.
Correct.
Nobody does want to.
So for the bank to foreclose, they have to go to court, right? They have to go to, now there is a change of control, so they now have to sue two parties. They have to initiate a foreclosure proceeding. They have to go through pre-foreclosure, foreclosure, and post-foreclosure. Most likely, if they go to sell it on an auction, they're going to bring in a lot less money than our negotiated price with a short sale. And another reason for that is because when they put it on auction and through auction, they have to pay auction fees. And on a $500,000 asset, for them to foreclose it is going to cost them close to $100,000 to $120,000. Now, no bank in their right mind is going to go and foreclose on a property that somebody's actively trying to negotiate, like the seller, right? I mean, I'm sorry, the owner of the property is trying to actually negotiate with them and make a deal happen and actually put more money in their pocket than they would make if they go to sell it through an auction in a foreclosure proceeding, right? Lastly, whenever it's your homestead, it's a property you bought as a primary residence, it's extremely difficult for a bank to foreclose in the first place because the protection of the consumer and the protection of the homeowner is a lot stronger than a protection of an investor, right? So the fact that you have a primary residence mortgage on this deal is another thing why the bank wouldn't even want to move forward on a foreclosure proceeding, because it's just going to be too costly. It's like saying, you lent somebody money to buy a car. You lent them 10 grand. They bought a car. And now that person comes back to you and says, hey, listen, man, I'm flying out of the country. There's nothing I can do. I'll just give you 7 grand back and I can't do anything else, right? But I'll give it to you all at once. Or you have to go to court, sue them, go through a small claims court, pay for an attorney and all that bullshit, which is going to cost you more than 3 grand of, just taking a quick loss, and a lot of headache that you're going to cause yourself. And then at the end, you're going to be left with like $2,000 to $3,000. Especially if you're a financial institution, where's the logic of you doing the second option and not the first?
Yeah, I see your point. Yeah, there's a lot to take in over a short period of time, but I'm gonna see what she
Eric,
comes up
it
with.
is,
I'm
but
gonna-
it
I'm gonna stick
isn't.
with you
It is,
guys.
but it isn't. Because at the end of the day, you just have to look at your options. Now, if you tell me, Sam, my
Yeah.
realtor told me I have a buyer or he has a buyer and he's going to be able to close in the next 35 to 45 days, I'd say, you know what, Eric, that's perfectly fine. I think that's a better option for you. But if you're telling me that you've
Yeah,
had this
of
property
course.
on the market for X amount of time, it hasn't sold, you haven't got offers that you wanted to get, and all the offers that investors are giving you are below what your mortgage amount is, it's a complete no-brainer to me why you wouldn't go this route. Now, whether you do it or not is completely on you, my man. We have no shortage of people who want to do this process, and we have no shortage of properties that we buy.
Right. Like I said, I'm gonna sit on it for a minute and do a little homework and try to get. I'm gonna just see how it pans out. I'm gonna give it about a week or so and see how it pans out.
That's fine. That's fine. Do you
Because
have
it's
any
still-
other? Now, one
yeah.
thing I want you to be careful of.
Wait a minute. Now I'm gonna tell you, this other person that's
Yeah.
looking at it hasn't made because, like I said, I want to try to get the best deal I can get out of this. But he's supposed to be calling me back. He's like, let me run the numbers. But at the same time, I hadn't heard back from him. But that was like 20, 30 minutes ago. I'm still trying to see what options. The realtor, I'm seeing what she's doing or trying to do. But at the same time, on my end, I'm seeing what my options are. And
Yeah, and
really, right, like I said, what you've explained, it makes sense. But here's the thing. I'm used to traditional. I know it's not going my way traditionally. I just don't want my name. I'm used to once it's signed, I'm done. I just know this, that, this, that. They'll go into court if you want to do a short set. I've never done all this, so I'm kind of leery. I'm not gonna lie. It sounds legit, but when you're not knowledgeable or something, I'm not just a type of guy like, yeah, I'm in. I'm trying to grasp a little bit more here and there what's going on in this, and you've explained it well. Makes sense, but I'm like, do I really want to do I want to go through something like that just for a quick $2,000 and then boom, boom, boom. They're calling me. How could you? I could care less about all that. But see,
Now, there's a
I-
couple of things
I'm-
that I want to mention here. One thing you said, well, do I want to go through
Okay.
it for a quick $2,000? It's not really $2,000, man, because at the end of the day, we are taking a $500,000 risk on this. If something goes south, it's really, you know, a $500,000 transaction that we're spending a tremendous amount of money and time on. And by the time we go sell it, we still have to pay fees and commissions and closing costs and everything else. Now your mortgage is 384 last I remember. So it's really a purchase price of 483. So it's really a purchase price of like 485, right? Because and it's really
Okay, so,
very
yeah,
similar to
right.
a cash price, a cash offer where you just walk away with exactly you know, that amount. Because if you sell it even for $500,000, you know you're going to have to bring money to the closing table after you pay agents, commissions, and closing costs just to close on this
I'm
thing.
trying to work at it. That's what we got in the agreement now, to where it's trying to sell with just my realtor getting $2,500. I had the paperwork showing already been DocuSigned and everything. Seller's getting something, but I'm coming out of the house with nothing, selling at $515. That's as low as I can go without having to come out of pocket.
I understand.
She's
I
already done
understand.
She's
I
talked to
understand.
the what do you call it? The title company. She said, Eric, this is as low as we can go without coming out of pocket with nothing.
Yeah.
So
And that's a
and she's got
515, and that's a
she's got
515, not even 500.
yeah, that's at 515.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
now my offer that means is closer to 517 because you're actually walking away with $2,000.
But you know, $2,000 is man, you know what? They called me yesterday, MT. I'm thinking about just going ahead and setting it up for this 6-month deal, and hell, I might even, I don't know, man. It's a lot to be taken in
Yeah.
right now.
Well,
It's not
last
that
thing I
can't
would
pay the
I would want you to
$7,000.
make, Eric, whatever decision you make, call me and consult. Because the last thing I'd want to be
Yeah.
done on this, if you're gonna go through with us, for you to make mistakes that are gonna cause delays on the back end for us.
Right. Yeah, because I really want to see how this lays out, because I was talking to my brother. He's like, man, I would talk to some people. He said, I'm not knocking anything you told me or heard, but he said, I don't know anything like that. But, you know, we're used to doing traditional. Like when I sold my 2 houses, I said, so am I. He said, yeah, I have no. Anyway, make a long story short, he's like, dude, you need me alone. We ain't doing all that. That's not happening.
Yeah. Now, one more thing, Eric. When you tell people, they're just gonna give me $2,000, it sounds a lot different. You know, it's like it almost sounds like it's a scam. You know,
Because my brother was
but
laughing. He's like, my brother
yeah,
did. He said,
because it seems like you're selling your house for
yeah, he
$2,000.
did.
That's not the case, though. That's not what we're offering
but you know
here.
what? I broke it down. And you know what? Even Pam said. You can look her up. Pam, that's my relative, Pamela Harrison. She's out of Dallas.
Now, why
Big
would
time
she
relative.
say, Eric? Now, why would she say anything different if she's your realtor? Her only job and her only way of getting incentivized is selling your house to a retail buyer, which I don't know what relationship you have with her, and I don't want to know, but she clearly failed to do.
Yeah.
Why would
I
she
don't
tell
know.
you anything else?
Well, that's true. But you know what? I'm sitting here thinking, man, why don't you just sit on the damn house, see what the market's gonna do, pay them the 51 plus the 17 to bring it back in 6 months to, I don't know, shit. I'm right now because I put a lot of money in that house. I mean, I have put a shit ton. Brand new AC downstairs, new carpeting downstairs. I mean, soft water system, all this shit I did to this house.
Listen, man, you decide. You decide. You decide. At the end of the day, it's your property. I can't. I'm not a magician. I
Right.
don't convince people to sell me their
No.
houses.
I respect the knowledge that you've given me. You're very knowledgeable. That's for damn sure. But I'm just gonna have to sit back and take all this in because it's really I'm at a crossroads. I'm like, damn, what the hell do I really want? Do I want to keep spending this kind of money? Which I make the money, but hell, I don't live in the house right now.
Let me
I'm over
ask
in
you this.
Frisco right now.
Is the house just sitting empty?
Yeah, I moved all my stuff in the storage.
Okay.
It's ready
And
to go. I have to
hold,
do.
hold
I have
on.
to
So
do
if you
nothing.
keep it, what are you going to do with it? You're just going to move back in?
No, I'm just gonna.
What are
pay
you going to do with it
everybody
then?
Just keep paying for it until I guess I sell it. If
For
that's
what
I-
reason? Because you understand that since it's a new loan, the majority of the money that you're paying is just interest that goes to the bank, right?
Yeah, the first 7 years is basically interest. Yeah.
Yep. So you
Exactly.
just want to make the
My
bank a
sis-
little
my
more
sis-
rich?
My sister's in the. Yeah, my sister's in the real estate, but I haven't. She's
I get that,
got a
but
little something going on
the
with it.
what you're thinking about is you just want to keep paying so that you can make the bank a little more rich? Because you
Nah, I
realize,
ain't gonna
like
tell you
right
no
now,
lie. Yeah.
the interest rate that you're even paying is over what the market is. Like the market interest rate is about
What's the
6%
market
right
right
now.
now?
6%.
Is it 6? See,
Yeah.
with
As
that
soon
being
as
said, you would
as
think
soon as
somebody
your
would
guy
jump on
came in
that.
office, they
Would jump
dropped the
on that
rates.
house. Yeah, but you would think soon as somebody saw the interest rate drop like that, I mean, hell, I've even said to my realtor, if you have friends that are in the market, they could have it for what I have left. And she's like, Eric, let me call around. She said, I know a lot of investors and this, but hell, that's been a week ago. Where the fuck are they? Excuse me, where are they at?
Yeah, but Eric, you're not thinking of the ins and outs because these properties have been appreciated to the exorbitant amounts. Like this property shouldn't have sold for $500,000 to begin with. It should have sold for 400 or less to begin with. The market has gone up so crazy and now it's cooled off and it continues to cool off even further because the rates are in a weird spot where, you know, a lot of people who bought houses at like 6.5%, 7% interest rate, now those are the worst positions to be in because not only your property's worth less, you even have bad mortgage on it where you're just paying high interest rates that are higher than the market, and you majority of the payments that you're making is just going to the bank for no reason.
Yeah, and I thought about refinancing, but I'm like, I don't even probably have enough.
You don't have enough equity to refinance.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So that's why, like, I wouldn't have
Hey,
offered you what I offered you if I haven't thought every single one of those aspects through. The only reason I went straight to that option is because I know that's the option that's going to work for you. Notice how I didn't offer you cash. I didn't offer to take over your mortgage. I didn't offer any one of those things because they're not going to work. And whoever's telling you that those things are going to work is wasting your time and is going to put you in a worse off position than you were before you enter into an agreement with them, because they're going to enter into an agreement and they're not going to perform on it and they're going to back out one day before closing. Happened so many times with so many sellers that I've spoke with, because people that you enter into agreements with, first, they're not qualified. They don't even know what they're talking about because they don't even have the money in the bank to make these kind of transactions happen. Like,
well,
if you're
trying to find the buyer so they can sell it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's the first issue, because most of the people out there are not really real estate companies or cash buyers. They're just marketing gimmicks, right? They just market for people who are in bad positions and bad situations, hoping they find somebody who's going to be in bad enough spot to not care and recklessly sign an agreement they don't even understand, and then they go and try to find a buyer, right? That's why I didn't even go into any one of those scenarios. It doesn't work, and it's not going to work. You're too upside down on the mortgage. The only thing that works is what I just outlined below. So when you come and tell me, well, I'm just going to talk around and ask people, you're just digging a bigger hole for yourself, because you're getting information from people who've never done this kind of transaction, who've never been in this kind of position. And even if you're talking to your brother, it's not your brother who's on the mortgage, Eric. It's you. You
Right,
owe
right.
$483,000 to the bank, not your brother, not your realtor, not your cousin, you yourself. So you have to make a
Yeah.
decision.
And you know, yeah. You know what? I could, honestly, I could, but it would put me in a bad situation. I could pay the mortgage up last month and this month today, but other things would fall by the wayside, and those people would be calling me. See, and it's like I'm like, do I go buy food and gas for the car, or do I let the lights stay on, or do I, you know what I mean? That type situation. That so, man, I'm like, shit. Anyway, bro, I got you guys' number, man.
All right, man.
I
Sounds
really
good,
don't know
Eric.
what direction.
You got it, man. Talk to you soon.
Okay. All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
What is it? Oh, this guy? Oh. Forget it. You're muted, Tony.
Oh, I didn't say anything. I was talking to my wife,
Oh.
actually.
Yeah. So there you guys have the guy. He's not ready. He's not ready. Yeah, I think he will do business with us, though. I think he's just gonna run himself into that circle, basically, where he might sign an agreement with somebody, or the realtor might promise something, and he just continues to, go through it. And even if he makes payments, he's gonna be late next month, right? So at one point or another, he's just gonna run himself back into the corner, and we should just be there for him, you know? Cool. Cool. Anyway, this basically this time we covered novations. I will see if next time we can talk a little more about sub 2 and creative, if that's what we have on the agenda, hopefully. So we'll talk a little more about sub 2 and creative deals. And then Tony, hopefully we get the wires and the checks today, man.
Yeah, is that all the signing and everything's done?
I believe so.
Sweet.
I think the buyer is signing at 4, so I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. You excited?
Yeah, sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Do it, man. And we're doing a flip with Tony right now in Birmingham, Alabama. Unexpected.
Yep.
So we'll keep you guys posted as to how that one goes. Cool. Well, we appreciate everybody, guys. Everybody joining. Thank you guys for coming. See you guys next Wednesday at 1 p.m. And we'll be talking a lot more about creative.